In this video, we will talk about a histogram. A histogram is a special kind of bar graph that shows how ranges of data change or differ from one another, and that shows the number of data items that occur within each interval. I'll explain what an interval means in a moment. A histogram is also used to compare data clearly and efficiently. For example, when we look at the number of students receiving grades, we can quickly see that the most amount of students received between a 70 and a 79 for their grade, which is the yellow bar. We realize that it's the most students because the bar goes the highest. Histograms are good at grouping the data into ranges or intervals. Now, I said I was going to tell you what an interval was. An interval is a group of numbers. Notice that I'm boxing these groups. Normally, a bar graph just shows one piece of data at the bottom that describes what the bar is talking about or showing. In this case, we're talking about an entire range from 100 all the way to 90. So that could be 100, 99, 98, 97, 96, 95, 94, 93, 92, 91, or 90. So any grades within that range would fall into this group, which this red bar is representing that entire group. Now, one thing that is unique about a histogram that is different from a bar graph is that the bars actually touch on a histogram, and that is because the ranges of data are in order, and so the very next number below 90 is going to be 89. And so since the numbers are right next to each other, the bars should be right next to each other, which indicates why they are touching. Let's check out this example. This histogram is talking about the number of pages read per student last weekend. You notice on the left side, it's talking about the number of students. So this is 0 students, 1 students, 2 students, 3 students, 4 students, 5 students. Across the bottom are number of pages. Now, the reason that we're going to use these intervals is because the data goes somewhere between 1 all the way up to around 40. And if we used a bar graph for this, we would have possibly 40 different bars, which is just too big, too wide, too many bars. So a bar graph would not be a good choice. In this case, we'll use histogram, which puts the data in groups, which reduces the number of bars that we would need. So as we look at the data, this right here, this red bar, shows that 2 students read anywhere between 1 and 10 pages. Shows that 4 students read between 11 and 20 pages. 1 student read somewhere between 21 and 30 pages. And 3 students read between 31 and 40 pages. This is another example. It's the same information, it's just different data. We're still talking about the number of pages read per student last weekend, and so the headings on the x-axis and the y-axis are still the same. The only difference is the data is different. In other words, 3 students read between 1 and 10 pages, 2 students read between 11 and 20 pages, 3 students read between 21 and 30 pages, and 2 students read between 31 and 40 pages. Now, you may be asked questions like this. How many students read more than 20 pages? Well, so if you hear that type of a question, how many students read more than 20, you cannot include 20 in that group. So it would be everything that is more than 20. And so to do that, you would count the number of students in all of the remaining bars, which in this group we have 3, in this last group we had 2, and you would add them together to answer that question. So 5 students read more than 20 pages. Next, we're going to talk about a frequency table. Now, a frequency table is going to help you to create your own histogram, And what it does is it organizes your data for you before you try to create the histogram or the graph. This says students listed the number of days they spent on vacation in 1 year. Make a frequency table with intervals of 5. So we're already told how big our intervals are going to need to be. So now all we do is we go through the data and we have a list of data here, these numbers, and we're just going to create tallies in this frequency table. So the first number is a 2, so I'm going to put a tally in the group where 2 would belong. Since 2 fits in between 1 and 5, I'll put a tally in that group. The next number is 18, so that would belong in this group. And 5 would belong in this first group because these are numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 15 would belong in the third group. 7, 10, 1, 10, 4, 16, 7, 11, 17, 3. Now, before I put another tally in this group of 1 between 1 and 5, on the fifth tally, we're going to slash through 4 tallies, which is the fifth tally. It helps us group and count. Instead of counting a whole bunch of tally marks, we can count them in groups of 5 for every 5 tallies. So on that fifth tally, once again, you're going to slash it across. The next one is an 8. So I'm in the second group. I need to slash it across because I already had 4 there. The next number is 14, 13, and 10. So that's how we go through the data and we organize it into the groups. The next step is to count how many tallies there were and just write that number underneath frequency. I had 5 tallies in the first group, I had 6 tallies in the second group, 4 tallies in the third group, and 3 tallies in that fourth group. And that's all I have to do for the frequency table. And the final thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create the histogram using the data that we had in the frequency table. So I have a graph set up, and at the bottom, you notice that there are intervals, and those are the exact same intervals that we had in our frequency table. So the frequency table and the histogram should match. So now I'm going to just draw the bars to the appropriate heights, the appropriate number of students. So for the group 1 to 5, I had 5 students. So I'm going to draw my bar all the way up to 5. The second group, I had 6 students. So I'm going to draw the bar up to the 6. The next group, I had 4 students. So I'm going to draw the bar to the 4. And the final group, I had 3 students. I'm going to draw that bar to the 3. Now, once again, what's nice about a histogram is that you can quickly and clearly see and compare data. So I could easily say that most students, or the most students, went on vacation between 6 and 10 days last summer. You could say that um, combining these groups, 5 students, 6 students, you could say that 11 students went on vacation 10 days or less. You could say that 7 students went on vacation more than 10 days. So there's a lot of different ways that you could describe this data. There's answers to questions just by looking at the data. You can answer any question that is asked of you.